Welcome, writers, game masters, and creatives to the World Builders Tavern. Today we are talking about the TV series Over the Garden Wall, so be warned, if you have not yet seen this series, there will be spoilers. With that said, grab an ale and pull up a chair. I'm Emma, your friendly barkeep, along with Allison.
Hi.
Christiana.
Hello.
And we are so happy to have you here. Cheers.
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 And a quick thing up top, just for housekeeping, you may notice that my audio quality is a little bit off today. That is because I am actually recording from Ireland, where I'm living for the next year, and my headset mic did not fit in my suitcase. Don't worry, I will be back to normal soon. It is the weight restrictions on airlines that you should blame.
Yes.
But with that said, let's get into our topic for today, which is super exciting. I actually really enjoyed the series more than I thought I was going to. But it is, of course, the series Over the Garden Wall, which if you haven't heard of it, I personally wouldn't be surprised because I also had not heard of it until I believe Allie was the one who suggested that we should talk about this. And I had literally never heard of it, and I'm very glad that we watched it. It is an adorable animated series of short 11-minute episodes, 10 in total. And the series centers on two half-brothers who travel across a mysterious forest to find their way home, encountering a variety of strange and fantastical things on their journey. And I really just need to emphasize how strange this series is.
So weird.
And almost everybody talks in kind of like a transatlantic accent also, which is like adorable. So yeah, Allie, Christiana, what did we think about this?
Well, we did have a quick message in our little group chat before we were talking about it. And I think the comment that I said that still wraps up how I feel about it is that this show is so far up my alley, it may as well be my apartment. Like, it's just, it's everything I want in the world and more. And I was thoroughly obsessed with it from the moment that I started watching. I was like, this is so weird. This is so bizarre. You can't see what my apartment looks like, but it's full of skulls and pumpkins, and I'm living in a permanent state of Halloween. And this just like...
This was filmed on location in your living room.
Yeah, right? it may as well have been, yeah.
I'm so glad you liked it. I'm the one who suggested it, but I actually hadn't watched it. I knew of it. I had a friend recommend it to me, and I knew it was really weird, so I was pretty sure Christiana would love it, Emma probably would, and that it would be fun to talk about. So I liked it. I didn't love it as much as Christiana does, I think, because, weird storytelling, it's fun, but I just like things to make sense, and sometimes they don't when you have weird storytelling, but I think the show did a really good job of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and see, you're absolutely correct, Allie. I'm obsessed with anything incredibly weird and confusing. It's always my favorite thing. But I think they actually did a decent job. So spoiler alert for listeners. In the end, we find out that it's like all a dream, right? Like it was...
Do we though? Because I was watching the end and I was like, it sort of implies that it's a dream, but then Gregory
it's also
has
kind of the
frog.
afterlife.
Gregory has the frog, and it's got the shining stomach, and like he talks about things that they did. So I don't know. It's sort of like, I think it's kind of left unknown, which is appropriate for the show.
Yes, yeah. So I interpreted it as some of the things were true, but it was two brothers who had a large disconnect and were kind of going through this strange world and this strange experience together. And then we kind of flash back and we find out that they're drowning while these stories are happening. Mm-hmm. And so some of it is real and some of it isn't. And I really like that. And normally I'm the kind of person who's a little annoyed when and it was all a dream kind of thing. But this is one of the few stories that kind of gets a pass for me because it was so bizarre. And I remember thinking very early on in one of the first few episodes, he tries to name the frog George Washington. And I was like, okay, so this happens in our universe to some extent. Like George Washington was a president at some point. And that was my first moment where I was like, okay, I think I think maybe there's something more deep going on here. And also his weird little costume, like the cone hat and like the cape and everything.
Wirt's hat and Gregory's, what's he on his head? A teapot or something?
A teapot, because he's the upside down elephant, right? And so like
I love
there was a
that.
couple little things where I was like, is this a dream? Is this like
Interesting.
some sort of, there was like a couple little things that I picked up on where I was like, okay, this is obviously happening in the viewer's world, right? Just like a few little moments, but it was also so bizarre and no one ever questioned the bizarreness that I was like immediately on board. I'm like, yeah, of course, there's a little raccoon in a flat cap playing the trombone or whatever. I was like, yeah, okay.
I think
I'm on
if
board.
you want to write dark weird like this, that's a really good tip of how to do it. I like it when the characters don't question the weirdness. They just kind of go along with it. I mean, it depends what you want to do with your story, but the other way can work as well.
Yeah. And having child protagonists for that really helps, I think, because children in general are much less likely to be skeptical. So, because I think it's a lot harder to write adult characters who are just like, yeah, magic's real, cool, I'm not phased. Whereas a kid is like, duh, like
of course magic is real.
Like, so that's a way to makes it.
I mean, depending on your setting, if you're setting it in the real world. If it's a fantasy world, then where magic does exist, then adults are fine with it. But one thing this show did really well is only sharing world building information and character backstory that the viewers need to know and waiting to reveal certain information. So they did a really good job of balancing you as the viewer feeling confused but interested. This is really difficult to achieve. So if you want to do this, this is a great example. As an editor, I see writers trying to do this a lot, but the information they withhold frustrates the reader more than intrigues them. And so then that's not what you want. You want your reader to be questioning things and wondering, oh, what is that mystery? Rather than, I need to know that, and it's annoying that I don't know it. Yeah. And so often the mistakes I see is writers including information or withholding information that a character knows from the reader. Like, so there's the narrator like thinking sort of mysteriously about something, but then not telling the reader like what it is or what and it's like the character knows this but you don't, and you feel sort of that's not really fair. Like, I'm in the character's head, I'm trying to go through this journey with them, I should know what they know, kind of thing. So that's one thing you can be careful of when you're writing. And if you're not sure, a really good way is like to have your beta readers tell you like, were you feeling frustrated or was this something that made you curious?
Was it interesting? Yeah.
I think kind of the point is if the character is also confused, it's okay for the reader to be confused. Yeah. I feel like it's kind of like an easy line to draw.
Yeah, you want to be journeying with the character. Yeah.
Yeah. If the character's not confused, you shouldn't be. Then
exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, in this show, the characters aren't really confused. But you are, but it's okay because they don't know what's going on. They're just kind of going with it, and you're like, what exactly is happening?
They're not confused because they're just not thinking about it in that way. It's not like they are like, yes, we know what's going on. They're just like, well, we're going to deal with this differently. Rather than being confused, we're just accepting it and moving forward as opposed to like
kind of like a dream. Like, you don't really question the weird things that happen in your dreams.
No, so that's exactly what I was going to say, Allie, right? Where like sometimes it's okay for a character to kind of like roll with the punches, where as the reader, you would be like, I'd be busting down doors looking for answers. Like why is this happening? But you roll with it a little bit because you can also kind of, even if they're not outright saying it, even if they're just kind of going with whatever is happening, you accept that the character is like, okay, this is what's happening next. I just want to get home. I just want to do the next thing. I'm just going to go along with it until I get to that point. So.
I think that they also had like a little bit of that in that they had kind of the the straight man character in Wirt. Like Gregory, the younger brother, was a little bit even more all into it. Like not even only accepting, but just like, yes, I love this.
Yes.
I'm like super into it. And Wirt a little bit sometimes was like, well, this is weird, or like, what is happening? So like, that Jim Halpert, like looking at the camera. Like,
yes.
Isn't this bizarre what's happening? So even though it wasn't as much as maybe a different character, you still had a little bit of that, which I think made the reader or the watcher feel a little bit more comfortable, because it's like, okay, this is supposed to be weird. And that's okay.
It's acknowledged, but not addressed, if that makes sense. Like, I feel that in stories sometimes where if someone is like acknowledging, at least, like you said, actually, I think the idea of like Jim Halpert looking right at the camera is actually kind of like a helpful writing piece, right? Where like sometimes you just have to be like, yeah, I know this is weird. But anyways, and then move on with it. So
for listeners who haven't seen the show, Wirt is voiced by Elijah Wood, who plays Frodo in Lord of the Rings movies.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I thought he did such a good job. So just
oh my god, he was fantastic.
Yeah. And this is a pretty old series at this point. Like, it came out in like 2014, so it also would have been like right around the time when like I guess it's like it's 10 years after Lord of the Rings, so like he'd still be pretty like big. So I love it when actors go on to just their weird little passion projects, like Elijah Wood and like Daniel Radcliffe and stuff, and I feel like that's kind of this, and I love it.
I played a video game recently where Elijah Wood voiced one of the characters, and it was an older game, so it was a similar, like, it's not a famous game at all, and it was just fun to hear him doing that. All the voice acting was really good.
That doesn't always translate. So
I did not know that, but as soon as you say it, I can immediately hear it. And I'm like, yes, that makes perfect sense.
One thing I really loved about the show is how it slowly drips information to you. I think that you I don't know, that just really, you really need practice to learn how to do that well, and this show is so good at it. So for example, the information about the woodsman and the lantern and what the lantern is, like it drops those curiosity seeds really early, just first with the woodsman, and then you're like, oh, it's just this random character, and then you realize he has this lantern, and then for our listeners who haven't seen it, Allie, do you want to explain like exactly how we're introduced to the lantern and like what we think it is and like what happens? At the beginning of the show, I think the first episode, Wirt and Gregory meet the woodsman, and they're not sure who he is, and he's carrying this lantern, and that's really all you know about him in the first episode. And they're not sure what his motives are.
He's grinding the trees in the forest.
Yes.
To create oil to keep the lantern going. Yeah, and he says his whole purpose for existing is to keep this lantern on.
And then
his job.
You learn that there's this beast in the forest, and you don't see it. So at first the boys are like, "Oh, you're the beast," to the woodsman, and aren't sure. And they come across a different beast, and then the woodsman's like, "That's not the beast." Like, and then by the end of the show, I think it's not till the very last episode you really learn everything, that the woodsman has been told by the beast that the spirit of his daughter is in this lantern, and that he has to keep the lantern going. And Gregory is about to die, and the beast basically tries to tempt Wirt into being the new lantern keeper and keeping his brother's soul in the lantern. And Wirt's like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And I'm like, oh no, this show's gonna end so sadly, and Wirt's gonna be this sad old man carrying this lantern. And then a second later, Wirt's like, wait, this is stupid, I'm not doing that. I loved that a lot. So then it turns out that the soul in the lantern is actually the beast's soul, and which I love. And the trees that were being ground up were the souls of other kids in the forest. Like, so creepy.
Trees. So many layers of like creepiness.
Oh man, it made me cry, like at that revelation and everything, and like I love a story that makes me cry. And I especially love a story that makes me cry that includes skeletons and pumpkins and like all of these
Yes.
things. Like
Yeah.
it was I expected it in the first few episodes, like with the woodsman and everything else. Like, okay, this is just like, it reminded me of Adventure Time,
Mhm.
actually.
Yes.
Where
yeah.
I was like, okay, there's just like a lot of bizarro stuff happening because it's funny and it's cute.
Yep.
And like, that's the world. It's funny and cute and no one questions anything. And then by the end, same thing with Adventure Time. Although Adventure Time, it happened many seasons later versus in the first season. I was like, oh God, this is actually so emotional.
Yes.
Like, this is actually, you're
Particularly
actually punching me over and
the,
over again. Like,
the idea that the woodsman has been his whole life, keeping this beast alive and thinking it's his daughter is so sad.
Yeah, this really reminded me the comp like title that came to me for this one is like Adventure Time and Dragon Prince, like the Netflix show. I feel like it's like a smushing together of those two. And I was like, oh, it's really neither of which I'm hugely like into. So I was like, oh, but I love this.
Yeah,
so it's cute. I thought also they did a good job with like speaking of the like dripping information. I thought they did a good job with like kind of having red herrings, but that weren't like a total waste of time. So like the bird, they meet a bird named Beatrice who like seems kind of off. You're like, something's up with this. Like she's helping them, but she also is kind of antagonistic. And you're like, so at first I was like, okay, something's off with this bird. Is she the beast?
Yeah.
Like, is she going to?
Yeah.
And then it turns out no, but something was off with her because she said she was leading them to somebody who would help the boys out of the forest, but it turns out that she was leading them to this old woman who wanted to have child servants, which was really, the way they said it was really funny.
But she was trying to save her family, so it's like she wasn't totally evil. But
yeah. So it's like a thing where you get a misdirect, but the misdirect was to a different, it's because there was a different secret. Like you never want a misdirect that makes your like watchers feel stupid, where it's like, oh, I was reading too much into that. Like there was nothing there. It's like, oh, there was something there. It just wasn't what you thought was there. It's this other thing, which I thought is really good writing. And
that's a great point with like kind of like the red herring or Chekhov's gun or like whatever you want to kind of refer to it as. Like, I feel like, and I hope that people at this point are kind of, weird kind of offhand example. My spouse and I are watching Only Murders in the Building. And it's kind of like a murder mystery thing. And we were talking, and in this season, there's like the potential that like a love interest of a specific character might be the murderer. But in the last season, it was the love interest of that character who was the murderer kind of thing. And we were talking about it, and he was like, that's a red herring. There's no way they would make this the same thing twice. And I was like, but are they also anticipating that we would all think that exact same thing? And then they make them the murderer again kind of thing. And so I felt like that watching this a lot, where it was very like, I'm overthinking this so ridiculously hard. Like it seems, obviously Beatrice wouldn't be the murderer, but are they expecting me to think that Beatrice wouldn't be the bad guy and then Beatrice will be the bad guy and it'll be like a double twist kind of thing?
Yeah. One other little world building thing that I really liked was giving both of the main characters really distinctive shapes. Like Wirt was really pointy, like his hat was pointy, his cloak was pointy, his nose was a triangle, and then Gregory was very round, like he had this big round head, these giant eyes, even his legs were like little round spheres with little legs sticking out of them. And I don't know necessarily that was like a bigger thing. Like, you know, there's always that you know, English teacher thing of like, sometimes the curtains are just green and the writer wasn't writing anything into it. So it's like, I don't know if that was supposed to be a bigger thing about their personalities, but like, I just really enjoyed that as an aesthetic world building thing. It's just each character had these very distinctive things that made them.
It makes sense for their personality because Wirt is more hard and sharp and Gregory is softer. And so I like that too. Yeah, I love it when the medium really matters, so that this is a show rather than a novel.
Yeah.
There should always be a reason why you're working in the medium that you're working in. And so like take advantage of that. Like if you're using a visual medium, use the visuals.
Yeah, I'm constantly reminding writers that I work with that you are writing a novel, not a show. And one of the main advantages of novel writing is you can get into thoughts and characters motivations,
Yes.
which you can't do
Yeah.
in any other medium. So make sure you're taking
Yeah.
advantage of that. Like, I imagine that if this was a
Mhm.
novel, probably it would be from Wirt's perspective, because he's sort of
Yes.
our inserted as us, the viewer.
Yeah.
And so just kind of feeling like his frustration and going through the things with him, I think would be really fun.
That's a great point, though, that you make, Allie, and that's something we should all consider in our writing and things like that, or whatever we're working on. Because, like, I don't think this show would work as a novel.
It wouldn't work
I
as
don't
well.
know if it wouldn't be as
No.
effective. Yeah.
You could maybe do like one short story of them meeting the huntsman and like maybe do something, but it would be like super different, and I don't think it would be as whimsical. Like
Yeah.
that would be tough.
It will be different. I would say, I'm not sure it's that it
Yeah.
won't
Yeah.
work. It would look different. Yes, that actually brings us nicely into our proprietor's pick, which
Ooh.
is where I have chosen a novel that you might like to read if you liked this show. So I will read you, or I will tell you the synopsis of what I picked. So I wanted a middle grade novel because this is a very middle grade-ish show with child protagonists. And so I picked The Horrible Bag of Terrible Things by Rob Renzetti, which was published July 18, 2023, which is this summer if you're listening to this right now. A boy who finds a strange bag at his front door, and a horrifying spider-like creature comes out of it and kidnaps his sister.
Nope.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that immediately.
Makes me viscerally
Sounds
cringe,
really creepy.
Yeah.
So he follows them into the world of Graubag, a bizarre realm where malicious forests, a trio of blood-drinking mouths, and a sentient sawdust-stuffed giant are lurking within the seams, and from every corner of the world come whispers of the great worm and eldritch horror. So this gave me such Over the Garden
Yeah.
Wall vibes, because it's about a pair
No.
of siblings in this creepy, creepy world, and there's whispers of a beast, you know, so it really sounds very similar. And so this is on my to read pile, and it would be really interesting to read it to see how this type of story is done in a novel format if you are interested in telling this kind of dark, weird, strange world building.
It almost makes me think of Coraline a tiny bit.
Yes. Yeah. Similar vibes.
Neil Gaiman does really good dark weird as well. So that would be another good author to read if this is the vibe you're going for in the novel that you want to write.
I love the idea of the genre of like dark weird, like one word, like grim dark, but this is dark weird.
Dark weird.
Dark weird.
That'd be honestly, if they made that a genre in the bookstore, that'd be the only place that I shop. So
that'll be the title of this episode: Dark Weird and Over the Garden
Dark
Wall.
Weird. Yeah.
Dark weird.
Yeah.
Ooh, perfect.
Hello, world builders. Allison here. Did you know that the World Builders Tavern has a free Discord community for sci-fi and fantasy writers? Join to get encouragement for that novel that you're working on, to participate in the monthly flash fiction challenges, and of course, to geek out about world building. Link in the show notes.
And it is now time for Last Call, where we, your beautiful hosts, have some concluding questions and thoughts for you to bring to your own world building, writing, movie script creating, whatever you're working on. So, Allison, what do you think we can take away from the world building of Over the Garden Wall and apply to our own creative projects?
Ask yourself what weird things about your story need to be explained and will be satisfying if they are. Like, I really enjoyed learning how Wirt and Gregory ended up going over the garden wall and seeing their kind of their life in the real world and having that answer explained. And then versus things that don't necessarily need an explanation, like the that village of skeletons wearing pumpkins for heads. Like, we never get an explanation about why they exist, and it doesn't matter because it's kind of a dream weird world and we don't need to know that.
They just do.
Yeah.
I'm going to say my advice would be, and again, take it with a pinch of salt. You can always ignore anybody's advice. But
Of
my
course.
advice is if you're going to do a dream sequence, because now I can't get Christiana's comments out of my head because I had not picked up on any of them. But now looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, it made sense. So I am the same boat where I always hate a dream sequence.
Yeah.
But except for this one, because I think if you're going to do a dream sequence, whether it's at the end, everything was a dream, or whether your character just goes into a dream for part of it, leave clues that it's a dream. It should not be 100% like the real world, because then you're, in my opinion, your audience will just feel like you pulled the rug out from under them. And that's never really what you want to leave your audience with. So plant something where even if they're not going to pick up on it the first time through, it should be that when you reveal it, it should make sense, where they go, yes, I now looking back on it. That's the feeling you want. You want the audience to be clued in, not to have the rug pulled out from under them, because that's just being a bully, and nobody wants to be bullied by their media.
Yeah, it feels like kind of like a cop-out almost a little bit, right? Where it feels like a cheap ending to be like, it was all a dream.
Yeah.
At the very end with no other kind of like hints or things, and it's very, very rare that a media can truly pull it off. So.
Also, don't start your chapter with a dream, please. Just
oh my god, yeah.
It's too common. It's
never start a story with the character waking up. Holy smokes, that's
and it's so tempting.
The rules.
You want to. Yeah, you want to. I've done it. We've all done it.
We've all done it. We've all been there. I really liked how at the end of this show, you're not actually 100% sure it was a dream.
Yes.
Like, was it?
Yeah.
I think maybe it was. I'm not sure. I like that it didn't give that answer concretely.
Yeah, this is actually the inspiration for Inception, I think. It was like, yes, let's go deeper. Christiana, what advice or questions do you have for our listeners?
It's kind of similar to what you have both said, but it's like lean into the weird. Like trust your readers or viewers or whatever you're working on to buy into the story, right? Like if you're picking up a fantasy book, people are expecting fantasy. If you're making a story like Over the Garden Wall, people are kind of expecting weird. Like you don't always have to explain absolutely everything. I think Ellie's example of like, even at the end of the season, we have no explanation for the whole city of skeletons that are wearing pumpkins as people suits. You don't need that because the story is how funny and cute are these little skeletons wearing pumpkins as people suits, right? So
and creepy.
It's creepy. I think it's cute, but maybe that's a sign as to how creepy I am as a person. But yeah, like trust your reader a little bit more, right? Like they will buy into more things than you kind of anticipate, right? As long as it's somewhat realistic, you're giving the hints that it was all a dream. You're kind of, like I said earlier, naming the frog George Washington. I was like, okay, so this is like at least somewhat based in reality. I didn't question it too hard. I was just like, okay, George Washington exists in this universe. Weird. I'm going to store that and then we'll move on, kind of thing. So trust your readers to accept the weird. Yeah.
In summary, embrace the dark weird. That's our
exactly.
There. That's the episode title. Embracing the dark weird over the garden wall. And with that, we are going to call closing time here at the tavern. Thank you so much for joining us. We have been your bartenders, and we hope to serve you here again soon. If you want more of us before our next episode comes out, you can find us on Discord, where the link is in the show notes. We are also on Twitter or X, I guess. I'm not calling it that. It is Twitter.
The platform formerly known as Twitter. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, the platform formerly known as Twitter is at WB Tavern Pod. And on TikTok, if you want to see Christiana's lovely face, they give you all that good stuff on World Builders Tavern, just at World Builders Tavern. Yes, we have different ats on all of our social media. We don't want to talk about it. And join our Patreon for fun things like our After Hours show, where we just geek out more about media that we love. And you can join us there on patreon.com/worldbuilderstavern for extra content. But without, you gotta scram.
Bye.
Get out of here.